All right, welcome to week 7. So far we had some installations that we had remotely. Some of you had some difficulty with uploading some of the files. Mainly, it wasn't really difficult, it was mainly time consuming that you guys had problems with. The few issues that came up, some of you that have been working on the midterm project, what I'd like to see you do is to install it on your remote server under a subpath. For example, and let me go ahead and show you a screenshot of what I mean. So let's say you had a remote host called mydomain.com. What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to install WordPress in a subdirectory called webd169, and inside that subdirectory called midterm. So what you'll normally do is you'll create a subdirectory called webd169. You'll take your WordPress folder, so normally this would be WordPress here. You'd install it, well actually you'd move the files over there with the folder called WordPress. Once the file's uploaded, you'll end up changing the name to midterm, and then you'll start your installation process. That'll help make sure that shows me that you know the relationship between the file system on the remote server and how it displays as a subdomain on your web browser. Later, what I'll show you is even if you end up making a bunch of subdirectories with WordPress in it, I can make it so that it appears to be coming from the root directory here. And that's by copying a file from your WordPress folder all the way up to your root folder. I'll show you later how to do that. Let's see, any other issues that we came across? Some people still had some questions in terms of the difference between using our local XAMPP or MAMP and the remote servers. Like, why are we doing this installation twice? Well, the local version, this XAMPP or MAMP version, is used for development. So you can end up practicing or experimenting with how WordPress is installed or any changes that you make. Much easier to make changes when you're on your local machine without the whole world seeing it than to do it on the remote one. When you do it on the remote one, it'll be it'll be available to the public. So you'll need to make sure you practice what you do first on your local before you move it to the remote. The other piece is that it's not as simple as doing an FTP of files like you would in a normal static website with your HTML, CSS, and JavaScript files. So you can't just take those files and move it over to the target server and say you're done. It's a little bit more involved. You'll be working with your database as well, which is where most of your content is. If you end up checking your file system, I'll go there right now so you can kind of see what I mean. If you end up going to your file system where your WordPress is located, I'm going to go to the local one. So I'm going to c:\xampp htdocs. That's the same thing as localhost. Then I'm going to go into webd169 WordPress. That's my WordPress installation. And when you end up going over here, even though I ended up creating some posts or even pages within WordPress, I don't see a file over here called, let's say I created one called Hello World. I don't see a Hello World HTML file here. Maybe I can check in the contents and I could see that I may have uploaded an image here for, well, not that one, maybe here. So I could see that image is uploaded, but the text that I wrote or the thing that I said, the qualified web page and stuff like that, those are not in your file system. They're all in the database. So when we actually make a migration, we're moving not only the HTML files, but we're also moving the database information across. The other question that came up was, well, can I use the same database for both systems? And the answer is not really no. you should probably make sure that your development system is pointing to your development database. So in this case, we've got our WordPress location located on our local machine using this Apache web server, and our database is on our local machine. When I go to the remote server, I actually have the files that I moved over to the remote server, and it has its own control panel for the remote host, and you'll end up using the database on the remote server. So any questions on that portion, first of all, before I go a little bit further? Also, it sounds like a few more participants came in. Don't forget to type your name in to the chat room so you can get some attendance points. And enter any questions you have over in the chat as well. All right, moving on from there. So what we're going to cover this week, let's see, is there anything else I need to cover from last week? I thought there was one other issue that came up last week. Oh yeah, the other one was some people ended up having an older version of PHP when they went to their remote server. They went and logged in, and when they looked at their dashboard, they ended up saying something like there was an error about you have an older version of PHP running. It's not a problem. It may have shown an error on your screen saying that you're using an outdated version of PHP. One thing that I'd like to say is that when we're going through this class, you may see some things that have anomalies as you're going through. And this is normal for a web developer. You're constantly going through some changes within newer versions of, let's say, PHP, or newer versions of WordPress, or different standards for the web, to where you end up having, let's say, a browser incompatibility. So I'm always seeing different changes. So each time I teach this class, I almost have something new that I have to address. If you see something like that, not a problem. Go ahead and share it on the discussion board. I encourage you to put things like that over on, let's go to the discussion board here. If you have something that doesn't fit into the weekly topic, feel free to put it in this Q&A forum. And that way I can address your questions, post the answers, and share it with the rest of the class. Okay, so on to this week's assignment, on to this week's lesson, I should say. So for this week, we're going to talk about installing themes. And I ran into some strange problems just before this class, and I want to share those with you, see if I can recreate the problem. And from there, we will show you 3 different ways that you could do an installation. All right. So I'm going to try to recreate the problem first of all that I ran into before. Originally, when I went in, I had a theme called Business Hour activated. So here I am over at my new theme that I have in place, and what I wanted to demonstrate was one of the ways that I can install a theme. First of all, let me go ahead and show the PowerPoint presentation that I had for this particular week. Sorry, I got my text message on the right for those of you that are coming in a little bit later, so that you could type your name in the chat room and add any questions there. But talking about pretty much using your local system and how you'll get there. Test site, navigate to there. Make sure your XAMPP is on, by the way. And I'm going to go ahead and log in, go to Appearance. I'm going to click on Add New at the top, and I'm going to search for a theme called Sydney, and I'll click Install. So this is the first way that we can end up installing themes. So let me try that out. here I am on my dashboard. I was able to log in. As you can see, I'm in my localhost area. I logged in with admin, and took me to the dashboard. To get to the themes, I can go to Appearance. And to add a new theme, the first way is I just click on this Add New button at the top. So here I clicked on Add New, and now I can't do anything. I was stuck. I was trying to demonstrate this is an easy way you can end up installing the Sydney theme, but I don't see anything. Problem is, the theme that I'm using right now may not be compatible with the latest version of 5.1. So the admin area is kind of confused. It doesn't know how to add a theme here. So the way I was able to solve this particular one, and probably don't want to do this in production because you don't want to mess things up, but here's what I ended up doing, was I ended up going back to Appearances, and I took the 2019 theme. This theme is compatible with WordPress 5.1 because it was delivered with everything. There was a version 5.03 or something like that, and who knows, maybe they fixed a bug or two by going to 5.1. But anyway, we used a theme that came with this new installation. So I click on Activate here. Now I've got the default theme for my site. Now I'll click on Add New. And now I can end up having some visibility of what is over at the WordPress site for some of the themes that are available. So these are the featured ones. Here's some popular ones. It's doing a little spinner, trying to find out what data I have. Displays here and so on. So the part that I was going to demonstrate is I know there was a theme called Sydney. That's S-Y-D-N-E-Y. And I want to install that one in. And this one might or might not work. I really don't know because we're on 5.1 and it could have some strange behavior. But let's try it out. I'm going to go to Search Themes. I'm going to go ahead and type in Sydney. And as I'm typing it in, it ends up coming up with a list of themes that came up. So here's my Sydney theme. Easy way to do it is just click on Install. What that'll do is that'll take a folder with all the files associated with Sydney and bring them down to your folder system on your web server. So let me show you where that's located to. So I just downloaded this theme called Sydney. I haven't activated it yet. So let me go to my local web server. How do I get there? Again, it's c:\xampp htdocs. That's the root directory of my local web server. Now I want to drill into where my WordPress is located. That's under webd169 WordPress. From here, I need to go and check a little bit further and find out where are my themes located. As I mentioned before, almost all of this should not be touched because it's part of the WordPress installation process, or part of the core code. But the only place that changes will take place is in wp-content. So I'll go in here and I see some folders for my plugins, themes, upgrades, and uploads. Since I'm working with themes, I'll click on Themes. And now I could see a folder created for Sydney. Let me take a peek inside. What's included in this? And this theme ends up having several files over here and some subfolders, including my CSS subfolder, images associated with the theme, maybe some include files, JavaScript, number of different items that may be associated with my theme. We're going to make something fairly similar later on in this course when we make our own custom theme. Not quite as elaborate as this, but we're going to create a folder of our own, and we're going to make a file called index.php. This one right here. This is the file that gets called when the theme is being used. It's saying, I know you end up having some content on your site, but I want to skin it a certain way. I'm going to go to this theme's index.php file, and I'm going to use that to display nearly all of the content that I have. The other thing that I asked you to do when we made our My Theme really early on in the course, I don't know if you remember that or not, but I told you to have a file called style.css. And this style.css file, let's see if I can actually have some of it display on the right-hand side here. This style.css file, I told you don't put that into the CSS subfolder. Keep it at the main level. And here's the reason why. Inside of this style.css file, the very top is some CSS comments. Some of it say theme name of Sydney, the URI for it. All this information that's here at the top of the style.css is going to display when somebody actually works with their theme. The other thing that we can see here is you can see kind of a thumbnail of Welcome to Sydney as kind of a screenshot. That one's coming from this file right over here called screenshot. So you need name a file screenshot.png and put that in that main folder, and it'll actually point to the same place. All right, so now that you know where it's located, let's use it. So I'm going to click on Activate for this new theme that I just installed. Now when I come to my main page, it'll show that Sydney is active. Little comment from this, it ends up telling you some notes at the very top. This theme actually has some extra items that it's trying to give you some help with, and saying, welcome to Sydney. To get started, please make sure to visit our welcome page so you can visit their site. It also recommends that you put in a plugin called Elementor and Sydney Toolbox. So that'll give you ways to customize the theme. So let me take a look at what it looks like on the front end. And it doesn't look that pretty. But this is the Sydney theme. And as you scroll through, you can end up seeing what it would look like. All right, that's my first way of getting a theme. Let's go back to PowerPoint to show what I did. Again, what I did was I clicked on Add New, just as I showed here. I searched for Sydney on the right-hand side. Once it displayed the results, I end up clicking on Install, and then it could show that it was installed at the top. Click on Activate in order to activate that theme. It brings it to the top left, and I can always click on the icon at the top to show what it looks like on the front end. All right. Now let's look at another way that we can end up getting a theme. So not all the themes are going to be available in, let's say, when you do that search. You know, like there might be a theme called Flash that's out there. Let's see if I have that or not. Let me try it the old way to see if it'll show up. Let's see if there's a theme called Flash or not. Oh, it does have one. Well, anyway, assume that we couldn't find this, and there was a theme called Flash, and it was from some remote site. Either you paid for the theme, or it was a free theme for WordPress. And what you'll get is you'll get a zip file, which I'll show you over here, that I have in some of the theme examples that I have as a subfolder from week 7. This was an old one from a class, and it didn't quite work right. So I'm going to work with this Flash theme zip. So I could download that, which I already did here. So I have this zip file that's available in the downloads folder. All right. Now, as in the zip format, here I'll even show you what it looks like on the inside. Inside is a folder called Flash, and inside that folder is similar to the file structure that you saw for Sydney. So that's all it is a folder with contents in it. And what I wanted to do is I want this folder to end up being in, let's see, not this one, but let's see, do I have the other folder open? Yeah. Eventually, I want this Flash folder to appear right here under the WordPress WP Content Themes folder. I want it to show up here. Now, since it's already in the correct format, it's already zipped up and ready to go, there's an easy way to do that from your WordPress site. So let me go back over to themes here. So back on appearance, back on add new. I have an option to click on upload theme. From here, I can end up choosing the file. Mine should be in the downloads folder, I believe. If I can find it. Flash, there it is. Click on open and click on install now. So what it's doing is, oops, it says uploaded file exceeds the upload max file size directive in php.ini. Couldn't use that technique. Well, let me try to fix that. Now this is something that I'm going to show you as every web developer has to go through. There's a file called php.ini, and right now it probably has a limit on how large of a file I can end up uploading. Normally this is controlled by your hosting server. So let me see if I can fix that one. I'm going to my Apache and I'm going to go to config and I'm going to look at my php.ini file right here. All right, here's my php.ini file that's on the web server. Now it's a little bit more complicated than this if you need to find it from your remote server. But let me go ahead and take a look at this file and see if I can find out where it ends up saying something about max file size. I should just be able to do a Control F, looks for the word max, shows max input time, maximum buffer size, maximum size in bytes. Just keep clicking next, next, next. Come on, it should have. Oops. Here we go. Maximum file size for uploaded files. So right now, the upload max file size is 2 meg. Let me make it, let's see, I don't know how large this thing is. Let's make it 50 meg. Make it something pretty big. So I'll save that. Now this file called php.ini, this gets run when the web server starts, and it reads these instructions and makes those settings. So even though I edited this file, I didn't really make a change to the upload just yet. Let me try again. I'll prove that to you for a second here. I'm going to go back, try to upload that theme again. Shows that same file. Install now. Still says the file exceeded the upload max file size. So how do I get it to read this php.ini? Well, if I was the web host, what I could end up doing is I could end up going to the web hosting server and restarting it. So I'm going to simulate doing that right now. I am going to stop the web server and start it again. Every time I start it, it's going to read that INI file with all the settings that it has. And I increased the file size to 50 meg. Normally, you wouldn't want to do something that large, but I put that in anyway. And now I'll try it again. See if I can go back, and I'll try to upload that theme. Choose that same file. It's at about 4 meg, so I'm well within limits of my 50 meg. Click on Install Now. Now it's processing because the web server now is allowing to upload that large of a file, and it should be, after a little bit of time, it should complete. Great. So the theme installed successfully. Let me go ahead and check my file system that I have for my WordPress content themes, and I should see a folder called Flash. There it is. Okay, so what I want to do with this theme is I want to activate it. So I'm going to go to the Appearance tab, and I'm going to go to Flash, which is right over here. Click on Activate. Welcome, thank you for choosing Flash to fully take advantage of the best theme. It kind of gave you some intros on this. So now that I have Flash in the upper left-hand corner, should be able to go and, oops, not reload it. I wanted to go to front end, see what it looks like. And it's hard to tell much difference on this. Okay, so the question is, so the php.ini file is only read once at the start of Apache server. Yes, and that's mainly done by your web hosting company. And they're the ones that configure your PHP for you and so on. There was an issue with one of the students that ended up having an older version of PHP on the web server. And what some web hosts will do is they'll allow you to have some controls on like the PHP version you have. So the control panel let them switch from, let's say, PHP version 4 to version 5 and things like that in order to get past some of those errors. Okay, so that was the second way to upload a file. You'll end up going to Appearance, Add New, click on Upload Theme, and I would end up uploading this Flash zip file that I mentioned before. Contains everything we need. It uploads to the site, and then you just activate the theme. So here's some screenshots. And you can see that it uploaded that zip file. And then you can end up activating it to see it on the front end. And then we can end up going back to, like, some of the themes aren't set up correctly, so you end up saying, well, how do I get back? One of the themes that I had before, let's see if I could show you here. One of the themes I had before, when it came to the front end of the site, and we may run into this when we're doing our development of our own theme, it didn't give us this ribbon at the top to where I could click here and go back to the dashboard. Some of the people that made themes and didn't know how to put this banner or ribbon at the top, they didn't give you an easy way to go to the back end. So if you ever find that situation, you can always go to the URL at the top, type in wp-admin right after the root directory of your WordPress site, and that'll take you back here so you can end up working on another theme. All right, last way to install a theme. Still going to go back to my examples, and I'm going to use this one called Color Mag. This is pretty old. I have no idea what will happen with the 5.1, but I'll download it. Okay. And I'll just extract it right here, just so it says color mag, folder called color mag, unzipped. As you can see, it's just a folder with a bunch of files on it. The style.css file ends up having all the information related to this thing called color mag. And as I mentioned to you before, all I want to do is take that folder and I want it to appear here in, let me close that up a bit. Let me pull this down. I can't see it from the top. I want to put it into my folder that says WordPress WP content themes. Now this is on my local machine, but you could always do it FTP to your remote server at that same location. In essence, all I need to do is get this folder called Color Mag to this location underneath WP content themes. So I can just drag it, copy it right here. Now I got the folder there. And again, like I said, all you need to do is take this folder, unzip it, and FTP to your remote server, and it's essentially the same thing. I'm taking a folder and putting it in a location within WordPress. Now that I've done that, I can go back to my WordPress backend. If I click on Appearance, it should show me a list of all the themes that I have loaded. Color Mag being one of them added. So what it did was it read that folder and it said, well, here's the themes that I have in here. I've got one called Flash, one called Ample Business, Business Hour, Color Mag, Sydney, 2019, 2017, 2016, which looks similar to what I could see in my folder system. Ample Business, Business Hour, Color Mag, Flash, Sydney, 2019, 2017, 2016, and so on. So now that it's there, how do I activate it? Of course, it's really easy. Just click on Activate. And let's see what happens with this. I have no idea what will happen. Here's the front end of the site. Yeah, it looks a little bit different. Okay. All right, so question was, why do you want to use multiple themes? Well, you don't have to. You can end up using the same theme, but if you end up wanting to try to keep your, if you want, in general, you don't want to switch themes. That's probably true. You don't want to switch themes, but what you could do every once in a while is you could modify it to try to update it for maybe new features or different looks and feel. The reason why you don't want to, let me first start off by why you would not want to switch themes. If you switch themes too often, some of the themes have a different way of navigating through the system. You might have a menu bar at the top that your users are familiar with, and you put in a new theme and then your menu bar shows up on the left-hand side or on the right-hand side. So those themes will end up confusing the user if you start constantly changing where your navigation is. However, probably over, let's say, a period of a year or two, you might want to introduce a new theme to your new users, and you might want to say, okay, we've got different branding, we want to show our new look and feel, something a little bit different. So that would be a nice way to give a nice presentation to your users. Question is, can you use homepage from theme 1 and about page from theme 2, like mix and match? Unfortunately, it'd be pretty tough to go ahead and mix and match in that way. Normally, when you use a theme, you're kind of using that theme throughout the entire site. And if you really wanted to make some changes, there are some ways to make specific changes to your home page, or maybe to a page with an ID of 123, and specifically just that one piece of content you want it to look different. We can do that, and we could explore that as we go through the theme development side. From this portion, what we're doing is we're showing you just a little bit about 3 different ways to install a theme. So to review real quick, 3 ways to install a theme. Go back here under Appearance. First way, the real easy way, is to go ahead and click on Add New. We'll get a collection of themes that are available from the WordPress site. I'll search for one that I like and go ahead and install it. Just click on Install. Second way is if I end up going to a remote site and I got a zip file, then I can end up clicking on this Upload Theme, and I'll take that zip file, upload it to WordPress using the web browser. It puts it in the right place, and I'm good to go. And the third way is much more manual, to where we end up going over to our themes folder, and we unzip that theme, or if we know what we're doing, we can manually create our own, and we can end up just putting that folder right in place. And as I mentioned before, we're going to try to take this style, we're going to try to make our own theme by creating our own folder with our own index.php and style.css file, and we'll be able to create our own theme from scratch by converting that old site. Let's see if I still have it there. By taking, I think we called it My Theme. Oops, I guess not. Let's see if what I called it here. Oh, I took it out. Well, I don't have a copy of this one anymore, but I used to have my theme from the very beginning of class that ended up showing up. And we're going to take that page and we're going to convert it into a WordPress theme. So sorry I can't show you what it looked like before, but that's what we're going to be covering in just probably the full second half of this course. Any questions? All right. One thing I'd like to remind you about is the midterm project. I guess that's the other thing that I forgot to mention as well, is some of you have been turning in some assignments late, and oh, sorry, there is a question. Question is, can you explain what child themes are? Yes. We're going to cover that in probably about 2 weeks, right after the midterm project. Creating a child theme is one of the easiest ways to make a theme based off of one of the themes you downloaded. And the purpose of a child theme is to say, you know what, I like everything that this theme has, but I don't like a portion of it. So instead of editing it directly, well, let me kind of give you some issues on that. If I took a theme that I liked, let's say the Sydney theme, for example, and I said, this is great, it's a little bit off from what I want. I need to try to change that code just a little bit. If I manually edit that code, great, I'm able to use it for my site. However, if they make improvements to that Sydney theme, if I do an update of that theme, I've just wiped out all my custom changes. So instead, what you could do is you can make a child theme, and you can end up putting in all your modifications in the child theme and say, anything I don't put in there, use the parent theme. So you'll get the best of both worlds. You'll get an untouched theme with a child theme with your modifications, and anytime the parent ends up having an update, that it won't break your customized code below. But yes, I'll cover that in about, looks like we're about 2 weeks out for that lesson. So back to the midterm project, what I wanted to make sure that everybody knew was some people have been turning in some of their assignments a little bit late or in their discussion board. So what I'm doing is, if you turn it in late, I'm still trying to give you some partial credit for putting in the assignment. I know you guys put in some hard work for that. So please try to turn it in as soon as possible. The longer you delay, the more points I have to take off. So try to make sure that if you miss a deadline, try to get those assignments in, and I want to give you as many points as possible. Plus, but the midterm project and the final project, these two projects have strict deadlines. I try to mention that wherever I can. These have strict deadlines. So please try to turn them in early if necessary, so that if you end up, you won't miss the deadline. I can give you some credit for it. But make sure you try to get everything before this March 25th deadline for the midterm project. And there's also a similar deadline for the final project. Okay, let's see, anything else that I need to cover? Oh yeah, also, if you noticed, some of the stuff you did for this week, if you put it into your midterm project, you get a little bit of extra credit by putting it into your midterm project. So by installing a different theme and activating it, you get 10 extra easy points right there. Not too hard to do for those 10 points. So make sure you look at this checklist though. Make sure you provided the FTP access, you've given information on DB setup, WordPress installation. I could check that by going to your remote server, creating an instructor, user ID with a password, with the role of administrator, put an online post with an uploaded image, and some documentation that you can end up putting in place. Okay, you'll see there's an attachment down here as an example of what you can end up putting in for your documentation. Mainly it's just talking about your user experience with the installation process. All that together is worth 100 points, and an extra 10 points extra credit if you end up installing a different theme and activating it. And what I mean by a different theme is the ones that don't come automatically with WordPress. The ones, you won't get extra credit for just activating the, oops, I need to go to the main portion of it. By activating the 2019, 2017, 2016, you won't get any extra credit for installing one of those. I want you to be able to pull another theme from some other area and activate it. Each theme is different. Each theme is created by many different types of developers. So it's a training course in itself with each theme that you run into. So part of it is all of us installing a different theme and testing it out could actually rate it. And let's say we have about a little over 35 students in our course. If each one of us chose a different theme to download and experiment with and learn how to use, we can end up sharing that with the rest of the class, and collectively we'll get some input or some review of 35 different themes. Without collaborating like that, we're doing it all on our own. We're installing 35 different themes, relearning how to install them, how to navigate through some of the features that it might have on the left-hand side. So go ahead and try and share that with the rest of your class, so that we can end up saying, I like this theme, this was great. I hate this theme, it was buggy, it didn't work with my plugins, and so on. All right, I've gabbed enough for today. Any questions before I sign off or actually stop the recording? All right. Oh, let's see. On a midterm project, do you want us to create a homepage? It's up to you. You don't have to create a homepage. If you wanted to use a homepage, for example, under the settings portion, let's see, it's under reading, that if you end up having a static homepage that you wanted to point to, you could say, I created a a new page, and I pointed to it here. Click on Save. And that way, when somebody goes to the front end of your site, they'll automatically go to the sample page first. But you don't have to. Basically, what I'm looking for is in the midterm project that you are able to install WordPress site on a remote server under the path that I specified of the webd169/midterm folder, and gave me access using the a new user called instructor with administrator rights. Once again, if you forgot that part, let me go show you how to do that. Is you'll go to the user section, and from here you'll click on Add New. You'll give it a name, call it New Admin. Still needs an email. And the name of New Admin. And it'll generate a random password for you, but if you can, go ahead and change that to webd169. It's a simple password, so you need to confirm that it's a weak password. I'm not emailing this address, so I'm not going to turn that on. I'm going to turn that off. I don't want to email that person. And here's the role that you would give it. So if you want to give this user administrator rights, you'll go down to Administrator, click on Add New. Now, New Admin is available to go ahead and access the site. Later on for security, you can take them off. Just have this listing. You can just click on Delete for that user, confirm deletion, and now you're back to where you were before. All right, any other questions? All right, great. Please make sure you get your midterm projects on time, because I want to give you as many points as possible. And if you turn in something late, try to turn it in as soon as you can so you'll get maximum points. All right, till next time, I'll talk to you later.